Hello and welcome to another episode of the Omnia Performance Podcast, with today making up part two of a longer conversation with our new triathlon coach, Craig Maben. Last week was getting to know Craig a little bit better. This week is a bit more of a breakdown of some of the things that he's achieved, some of the things that he wants to achieve, and setting the scene for some more conversations on things like his attempt at sub 10, the Keltman Extreme Triathlon, which we've both done, the West Highland Way, and a lot of the things that he's learned working with hundreds of athletes across their triathlon and strength training goals over the past couple of years. So, without any further ado, let's get into part number two of a wider conversation with Craig Maben. And if you haven't yet listened to part number one, then you can go back to that after today's episode. Let's go.
I have a bad relationship with the turbo at the moment.
It's the same way that I really struggle to do runs on the treadmill. Like even if I get my phone and like put something on YouTube or something, like I just really struggle. Like so I would like, let's just say 10k. Like if I do a 10k on the treadmill, like that would feel like probably like 20k outside to me, because like obviously there's pros and cons to both, and as we talked about, like living in Australia, like sometimes it's like just too hot to run outside, or you know, if I'm doing like I did a race last year where I was doing some specific heat prep, so I was like actually trying to get hot, so I was therefore also doing a treadmill because I was like wearing hoodies and like trying to control my environment a little bit. But I just find the treadmill like so draining. But I love the turbo. Like I did a 3-hour turbo last weekend and like fine. Like I don't love it necessarily, but it's like it's just easy.
Was that steady output? Was it varied?
Yeah, like pretty steady. Like it was a easy ride. Like it wasn't a session. But sessions on I would prefer to do a session on the turbo. So like if I'm doing intervals or whatever, just because you're going to get better.
Yeah. There's not many places in the world where you can get reliable interval workouts done. I mean, Centennial Park in Sydney.
Stuff, yeah, like, but then that gets pretty boring. But and it's dangerous as well, man.
Is it?
Like, yeah, because the way that it works is the car lane. So it's a one-way loop, 3.7k. The car lane is on the inside of the bike lane.
Okay.
Because
so anyone trying to leave the car lane is cutting across the bike lane.
And you've got people cycling around there on tandem rentals going like 13k an hour. You've got beginner cyclist tootling around, and then you've got someone going on a TT bike at 50k an hour, and the car's like looking in the mirror, oh, nothing's coming. And I've seen a few people on the ground in Centennial from literally just the car, because if you're going 50k an hour, like, you know, whatever, I don't know braking distances, but yeah, carpools. And then what the driver does is they make the move, and then they see you and they go and they do the worst thing possible and they stop. It's like, if you commit, move out of the way, because I'm going to go. If I see you turn, I'm going to try and go behind you. Yeah, that's my instinct. Is I'm seeing you turn left, I'm going right, and what they do is they go left, slam the brakes on, and they stop right in your path. Luckily, I've never had that happen to me, but I've had a few close calls, and I actually think I saved a guy in Centennial because I'd like hopped on his wheel. I was getting a bit of drafting off of him, and he was like he was doing an effort, and I'm just gonna just
hang out here,
yeah, why not? It's a bit of fun. And like there's this one bit where you come down the hill, so you get a bit of speed, and then it's flat, and that's also where most of the turnoffs are. And I remember looking up and just seeing I feel like I have a bit of a sixth sense for what drivers are doing. You know, it's like I have a feeling that a door is going to open up on this car coming up on the left, or I feel like this guy's about to make a turn without his indicator. There's just like a sixth sense that I think you get for it. And so I saw this car, whether I saw it moving or I just went, ah! And the guy in front slammed his brakes on, literally ended up like side drifting, both brakes locked up, like full like speed wobble. The car did turn and he went around the back, and I remember kind of like getting up next to him, and he was just like shell shocked, like, oh my God, what just happened? And we didn't really even like speak about it. We just like kind of continued on, but it was a pretty close call. But anyway, that's a bit of a
it's where Meydan and Al Qudra in UAE are really I love training there. It's just literally piece of piss, turn up, rock up, completely safe, one way, purpose built.
Two very opposite, like obviously Sydney, like real estate, not much of it. Every little centimetre is covered by either property or Centennial Park is actually like great to have it in the centre of a city like that. But yeah, Dubai, they've got, or like the Middle East, they've got as much desert as you need.
They've got space. We
will build it, brother.
The cycling community there is thriving actually as well, which was very interesting to see. I didn't expect, but the difference in just being able that's the only place I've ever done an effort on the bike. I tried Reese got me to do a FTP test outdoors 2 weeks ago. Did it on the East Coast, and I just got shafted. Of all of the possible times, I've done midweek rides there recently, and I've never been stuck behind a bus. And of course, the one time I needed to not be stuck behind a bus, I got stuck behind a bus twice.
Yeah, I've done kind of like I would do like more Ironman, half Ironman even sessions out there. It's like 5 by 15 minutes, like longer sessions. Yeah. But if it's like hard and short stuff, or the only one that we would typically do is there's that Strava segment from basically the North Berwick sign to the Musselburgh sign, which is like, I don't know how long it is. Like, is it 20k or something like that? Maybe not quite that far. Maybe like 15k. But I would, if there was, because it's rare that you get a tailwind that way. So there's a few days where if there's a tailwind, I'd be like, ooh.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
But the looking at my Strava segments for that, the difference is literally if you get stuck at the lights at Preston Pans or not.
Yeah.
Because that just ruined. Like you could be, because the wee thing on your Garmin says like, oh, you're up on your PR by 8 seconds.
I've turned those notifications off. I don't want to be incentivized by my bike users to run reds.
If you're not going for it, you don't want it. But when you are going for it, it's very helpful. And then I'm a minute up, and then you just see the lights going red, and you're like, no, and then you're like, do I do it? Is this Strava? And then there's a bus.
It's to circle right back. I do have a very hate relationship with the turbo at the moment, but it's
you've been doing a lot of time on there though.
I have been, and it's been very non-varied, which has been the challenge. And I think aero position in the turbo versus aero position outdoors is just so much worse in terms of demand. You're just completely locked in, which is great actually for training. Yeah.
Because let's say you're time crunched athlete, for them to do an hour ride outside on the TT versus an hour inside, they're getting so much more accustomed to that position in that 1 hour on the turbo. So for someone not like us who doesn't have the ability to just train almost as much as they want, if it's like I've got an hour, it's like actually not only training wise is it like a much better session to do on the turbo, but it's actually just especially getting into the TT bike, getting your core engaged and your shoulders used to that position.
And you feel everything on the turbo as well. I think that's the key.
Locked, because when you're outside, you're maybe sitting up for lights or whatever, and then even when you are going, you're kind of moving around. You can go in a couple of different positions. You can kind of relax a bit. But when you're on the turbo, you're just locked in. There's no, especially if you don't, which I imagine most people don't have one of those wobble plates or whatever.
No, I don't have one of them.
Yeah, nah. So you're just locked in. There's no movement. It's just you're literally in one position, which is slightly, hard, but good for the adaptation that you need. Because if you're going to do an Ironman and you want to hold the TT position for, let's say, at least 5, if not 7+ hours, you need to get familiar with it. And because people spend all this money on Aero TT bikes, and then they can't hold the position for an hour, and they end up sitting up, and you're like, so you're sitting. You've just spent 20 grand on a canyon, and you're not able to the whole point. They look cool and it looks good on Instagram, whatever. But the point is that it's faster to be more aerodynamic in this position. But then they're sitting up every 10 minutes because they can't hold the position. So it's I think some people sometimes have their priorities a bit.
That's been one of the biggest focus of this prep for me. Is just when I did that 250 mile ride, I did so what was it, 402.5k. I did 300k of it aero. After 300k, I just really was like, oh fuck this. My traps were hurting. It was just uncomfortable. But 300k is as far as I need to go in aero.
Yeah, I got to the point. I'm not there now because I've had a bit of time off. But I got to the point on my TT bike where I was more comfortable here. I would sit up on if I was doing efforts on the turbo or something, I would sit up to take a drink or whatever, and I'd be wanting to get back there. My body wanted to go into that position, and it wasn't my proper aero tuck with the shoulders and everything, but I had a kind of relaxed position that I felt extremely comfortable in, almost as comfortable as riding your road bike sort of thing. So, but it just takes time. I remember when I first got a TT bike, I was doing 2-minute intervals in the bars because that's all my shoulders could handle. It was 2 minutes in, and then I'd sit up for a minute and go, and then back in, and then just over time, those became 3 minutes and 4 minutes and 5 minutes, and then, the progress kind of goes up exponentially eventually once you get through that kind of breakthrough point of, it's like anything. It's like when you first start going to the gym, it's like, oh my god, I've got
this is
bad DOMs, you know.
This is what people forget. This is what people forget as well. I think is important. I think with the rise of triathlon, which is fantastic, with the rise of running, all these things, even things like carbon shoes. Running is a skill. Carbon shoes are an element that they require a higher element of skill in terms of running economy and things. And you can pay to win at the top.
Yeah.
But you're not going to pay your way to winning as an age grouper, so to speak.
I think, yeah, and yeah, one of my viral Instagram reels is the hook is like, runners, if you run it slower than 5 minutes per kilometer, you don't need super shoes. And obviously it's a bit of a controversial statement. It gets people's attention. It's not definitive, and that's probably the reason why it's done well, because it pushes people one way or the other. But the point is that yes, you don't. And that's not to say if you run a 5:01 pace, you're not going to go 4:59 if you wear a pair of carbons. But it's like, okay, what's the long-term impact of that? Like, can your legs handle it? Like, I get really sore ankles in Alpha Flies, for example, like shoes with like like proper super shoes, like not your carbon whatever, but like Alpha Flies. Like I would, if I did a half marathon in a pair of Alpha Flies, I would have to adjust my training plan the following week to. And it's not that I'm injured, it's just like my ankles are getting worked.
Yeah, I had a pair of Hoka Cielo X's, which we both got at the same time. I used to get on with them, the original pair, and then I started doing marathon, so 5Ks, 10Ks, fine in them. I did a marathon prep in them, and I was fucked for like 3 months afterwards because I kept running in them. And then my physio just said one day, "It's like, maybe just try some different shoes for your speed sessions."
Yeah,
I went,
so
okay.
I got the Cielos and actually ended up going for the Rockets for stability, basically, because I was finding my ankle, my same thing with they're very Alpha Fly-ish in terms of how they are. They're fast, they're poppy, but the Cielos we're talking about. But yeah, it's just that like overpronation, and it's just, I did a 14K interval session with the Tri Club here, which was great, like really good session, over under 1Ks, and was like felt really strong. But yeah, afterwards my ankles were just sore, like DOMs.
Yeah,
injured, but
my soleus, there were days, it was when I was in it was October 2024, I think. There were days where I could barely walk. Like I was getting out of driving the car for like 20 minutes and I was struggling to walk back to the front door because my soleus was so bad.
Yeah, and this is the funny thing, like, because a lot of the comments on that video are like, you know, who are you to tell me what to do? Or like, oh, well, I just did my first kilometer in 4:59, so I'm going to go and buy a pair of super shoes now. And I'm like, guys, like, I don't work for a shoe company. Like, it doesn't bother me, but it's just, I'm trying to like just tell you what's what. Like, yes, like it might be faster, like for the first 25K of your marathon, but then when your body breaks down because you've never done a marathon before and you have to run 15K slower than what you've been training at because your body's broken down, and you've now got these stupid shoes on your feet that you're now running 7 minutes per K, like, that's like just the advice that I'm trying to give you. Do what you want. Like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not getting commission one way or the other. But yeah, a lot of the comments are like, you know, oh, it's my money, I'll do what I want. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like,
it is, yeah, 100%, yeah.
But because you see someone on social media who's running a sub-3 marathon and they're wearing this certain pair of shoes, and don't get me wrong, like everyone, I mean, I even fall guilty to this. It's like, oh, that person that I think is cool is wearing this thing or doing this thing or has this bit of equipment. I want to get that too because I want to be cool too. Like, I get it. Like, and I get it that like you don't want to run in a pair of like Brooks Glycerin 3s because they're absolutely honking, but like that's maybe what's best for your feet, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
To any brand, but yeah.
But it's the tri-bike situation is the key. I think it's it's people believe triathlon is a very expensive sport, which it can be, of course. Yeah. Entry fees aren't cheap by any means, but you don't need to do Ironman branded race.
Definitely not.
Events. The key detail: Ironman don't own the distance. They'd like you to believe that they do, but
another one of my not quite viral, but yeah, another post that did very well was me kind of doing a post on, is Ironman a brand or a race distance? And again, it's the ones that cause controversy, right, that are the ones that do well.
Yeah.
You get both sides engaging with
the annoying thing is they've done a great job of making it seem that way, which is great because it's got thousands of people from all over the world taking part in Ironman distance events. But there are more cost-effective ways of doing it if you want to do the event.
Here's a question for you. You've got the Ironman tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so two-part question. First, if you do a non-Ironman branded event, let's say Outlaw, and that's the only thing you've ever done, can you say I've done an Ironman?
You can say you've done an Ironman, but if part two of the question is can you get an Ironman tattoo, I'd say no. That seems...
Because the tattoo's the branding, right?
Yeah.
So I would agree with that. I say 100%. If you've done, it doesn't matter. So my first Ironman was during lockdown, which was Ironman Edinburgh, which doesn't exist, by the way. It was me leaving my house and going to the commie, swimming, getting my mum to meet me in the car park, getting on my bike, riding 90k out, 90k back to my apartment. 45-minute transition, sitting on my sofa, not a good idea. To then go and run, I don't know, 4.5 hour marathon, finishing up down at like Silver Nows. That was
I remember this. Yeah.
That was because my event got cancelled. So Keltman got cancelled. Fast forward, I signed up to Ironman Portugal. That then got cancelled on 2 weeks' notice. So I'd done all the training by that point, and so I thought, I'm just going to do it. But at that point, that was the only Ironman that I had done. But if someone at that point had said, "Have you done an Ironman?" I'm going to say, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like I swam 3.8k. Fair enough. It was there is an asterisk to it, especially for mine, because the swim was in a pool. Like all of these things that but yes, I covered
45. Can you time out in a transition? Is there a cut-off time in transition? That'd be funny if this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess
the athlete must be out of T2 within 30 minutes of arriving. Oh shit, I've been cut off.
No, I remember sitting in my flat with my mum and my friend who was going to cycle with me on the run, and like we were just sitting like chatting, and I was like, obviously in my head, like subconsciously, I'm like, I don't really want to go for this run, so I'm just delaying things. My mum's like, "Oh, do you want like a cup of tea?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, I hope that kettle boils." I'm like, I hope the kettle boils a bit slower. And then all of a sudden I was like, guys, like I actually need to go, like, otherwise I'm just not going to. And so, yeah, I remember looking at the Strava afterwards, and like you could figure out how long I'd been sat there for.
I think we laugh about it. I think that the tattoo thing's interesting because at the end of the day, it's a brand. I got mine as a reminder of it was just unfathomable to me at the time.
Yeah, no, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get the tattoo thing. I don't have it, and I don't think I will get it because I need to be careful what I say here. But I don't necessarily want to advertise their brand. Do you know what I mean? Like, not
that's how I view it for me now. But I didn't think of it that way at the time, and I believe every tattoo is a reflection of your thought process at the time.
Yeah, I've only got 3 tattoos, and I regret 2 of them. Well, not regret, but I would get rid of 2 of them if I'd probably get rid of 3 of them if I could just press a magic button. To be honest, I don't really care about them. But anyway, they're there. But I get, and I think almost everyone would say the same with the Ironman thing of like, oh, it's what it means to me, blah blah blah, which is obviously what it's your body, like do what you want. But for me, I just don't like. No matter what, I would get something else to like. Symbolize it, but that specific thing for me now is like and like I'm doing an Ironman this year. Like I have nothing against the brand, like I'm still going to do it. I still want to go to Kona, like I still coach people to do Ironmans. Like I'm not encouraging people away from the brand at all, but there is other options out there that are not as expensive, not as gate kept, and I think as we progress that's going to become more and more common, and this kind of question of well, was it an Ironman if it was this, or
it's an irrelevant question as well. That's the thing. I think people place too much emphasis on it, but again, I think that's because of the amount of noise on social media. At the end of the day, triathlon isn't the cheapest sport in the world. No,
definitely not.
It definitely isn't, and that's difficult to avoid. You're doing 3 sports simultaneously, all of which require facilities and equipment. That's going to come with cost. The race entries you can do cheaper, and look at the end of the day.
Free.
Or free, yeah, exactly. I was going to say both of us are proponents of doing self-supported events as a sort of creative expression. And if you want to do something on GPS alone out your front door, then that's actually arguably more difficult because you don't have aid stations, you don't have the adrenaline rush of a crowd, you don't have the mass start to get you fired up, you don't have the infrastructure of everything that's there to support you. And look, I've done the Outlaw in the UK. I think the Outlaw is a fantastic event, very, very family-friendly. Really, really well set up, and actually very, very pleased to see that they are pretty much sold out this year versus last year, where I think they had a lot of places towards the start line, which just shows the direction things are going. But I'm really pleased that that's got that visibility this year.
And I think with that, like just kind of maybe to touch on that sort of stuff with T100 coming in, obviously they've not got a full distance yet. However, I have heard there might be talkings of a T200 at some point in the future, but
interesting.
With the because Ironman have such a hold on the marketplace at the moment, and they know that they do, so they know that they can charge $1,000 USD for an entry. Or
the one thing I will say is, I've only done one branded event. I felt like I knew where I felt like I knew where my money went when I arrived.
100%. Like one thing I will sing Ironman's praises is like when you're there, like the race week, the expo, the vibe, like this is a big deal. Like that has been unmatched. I've found. I've only done one branded event as well, full, and yeah, like you get. I wouldn't say, but do you get your value? Do you get your money's worth? Like, yeah, it's still expensive, but you're at least like, okay, like we're getting well looked after. Like, there's not really been any corners cut. Like the patch.
Even things, it's just even little things like the lighting. There's fucking shitloads of it, and it's really well done. Like the sound system slaps. You're like, this is yeah.
Like,
they haven't got corners.
And like they build the vibe, and like before the race start, they've got the song and the big clap, and they put on an event. And I'm not saying that other events don't do that as well, but Ironman definitely have been doing it for the longest, and they know how to do it, and they know how to do it well. But the point I was making there with the T100 is I think competition coming into the marketplace is only going to make things better. It's going to force Ironman to be even better. It's going to force them to be even more realistic on their pricing. It's going to force these other brands. Ironman has set the bar so high, so it's like, okay, this is the standard, so you need to match it, otherwise we're just going to keep going to Ironman. So I think it's only positive, and I am doing my first T100 in 5 days' time.
Oh, nice.
So that the distance, it's a bit of a weird one. I think just because it's not been around for a while, it just doesn't mean anything yet. And I mean that in like the nicest way possible. But I just, it's like, oh, I'm doing a half Ironman this weekend. Like, oh, what time are you going for? Oh, like sub 5, sub 4:30. People have some, I'm doing a marathon, I'm going for sub 3. I'm doing an Ironman, I'm going for sub 12, sub 10. People have some concept of that. Whereas I say I'm doing T100, they're like, well, what's that? And it's like, we've just gone through that with Ironman. Ironman's now become a bit more popular. That most people kind of understand it in the fitness space anyway. And then you've now got this whole new thing where you're like, oh, it's 2K swim, 80K bike, 18K run. It just isn't. But like in 5 years' time, it'll be like, oh, I'm doing a T100, and that will be a thing that like, oh yeah, I know that like, under 4 is a good time, and like under 5 is like pretty good, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, at the moment, it's just like it just doesn't have that thing of like, and I do have a goal, and like I'm going for sub 4, but it just like, I mean, I only had a couple of options, right? Like to pick a number to like,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, I'm going for sub 407. It's like, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
And the individual components don't have their own sort of understood approach to them. Like at 70.3, there's a half marathon at the end of it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm going to set an 18K PB on the run. And also it's like, just my brain doesn't compute. Like I've got some just from doing it for years, like I just know like, 4:14 pace is 1:30 half marathon. Like I just have these, like, whereas I keep having to like recheck my maths on my like pacing strategy for the run, because I'm like, my 18K split doesn't quite compute. The bike is easy to work out because it's 80K, it's 80 kilometers. So that's nice and easy, because I'm aiming, hoping to go for 40K an hour. So it's just a nice round 2 hours.
Nice, but nice. It's very fast.
The run, well, yeah, and most of it is the bike, to be honest, at the moment. My legs are coming round, but my legs are not quite where they once were. But yeah, I'm pretty aero on the bike. I've managed to do a few upgrades, got a new helmet, doing everything that I can to go faster.
Every little helps.
Getting any fitter, yeah.
But I think, new helmets aside, not everybody needs a new helmet for their first Ironman. I think my first Ironman was done on a 700-pound Toyota commuter bike that my dad swindled on his bike to work scheme whilst I was 19 as a way for me to get to and from, would it have been uni or would it have been work at the time? I can't remember. But essentially it was...
I will say helmet makes the biggest difference in terms of kit for aero. So like
after aero bars?
Well, after bike, after you and after bike.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can, like, I did a post a while back where I went and like broke down like what are essentially, where should you spend your money if you don't have an unlimited budget, and helmet was like the top after bike. Like,
but don't be in an aero helmet with unshaved legs.
Shaving legs is free.
It is, yeah.
So that's like,
unless you don't have a razor lying around, in which case there's a couple of
quid. Okay, not free, but it's cheap, extremely cheap, and so there's no reason not to do that, and it makes a lot more difference than people think. Like over 10 minutes on an Ironman bike just from shaving your legs.
which is wild. I mean, the first time I read that, I was like, I'm being trolled.
Yeah.
I am being trolled.
And also, fun fact, but like, you can actually shave the hair in your legs in a pattern that will actually be faster than having completely shaved legs.
I'm not sure that is a fun fact. I think that's...
Well, it's a fact. Don't know if it's fun.
It is a fact. Fun is in the eye of the beholder. I think we'll amalgamate two terms.
Yeah, so on that's why you see people wearing these calf sleeves. So they're not... Well, some people wear them for compression, but it's because it's manipulating the air around the cylinder, which is traveling the wrong way through space. If you imagine a plane flying belly first, that is essentially your leg on a bike, and so not very aerodynamic. And so the first thing is, if you've got hairy legs, it's just like very bad. If you've got smooth legs, great. Or you can even either shave the hair on your legs, leave a strip down the front and chevrons on the back, or you can just buy a pair of calf sleeves for 30 quid and stick them on, and they'll get the same benefit. That's faster than the shaved legs, because not only is the air smoothly passing your shaved leg, it is being manipulated back together behind quicker, which is essentially what aerodynamics is, and so that's the fastest. And it's also, they're 30 quid. So in terms of, the calf sleeves are versus shaved legs, like marginal gains, let's call it. Shaving versus non-shaved is maximal gains.
I realized the other day I'm currently donning unshaved legs. That's how much of a diesel engine I've become. I'm saving it all for race day, bro.
Well, I do the thing where the day before race day, everything below the upper lip gets removed, and it's just I think part of it is obviously for the legs is aerodynamics. The arms, from my understanding, it doesn't make as much of a difference. None of this makes a difference, but just the feeling of, like, it just feels...
It's a ceremony, isn't it? It's like putting your suit on before your first job interview. You're getting locked in.
But you just feel faster. Like in the water, like shaved arms feel so much faster. And then obviously on the bike, shaved legs actually makes a difference. Having the shaved arms just, and I don't know, I just feel slippy when I'm all shaved. And so I'm saving it up at the moment. So my legs are actually like quite hairy, because there's no point shaving them now to then reshave them, so I'm saving that feeling for Saturday afternoon.
Interesting. Triathlon changes a person, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
Like, what would it be, like 10 years ago, or 10 years ago, I was living with my friend who would wake up early and go on his little cycle with his friends in their Lycra, and he'd come back and he'd like be talking about shaving his legs, and I remember he used to have to like get his Garmin and plug it physically into his computer to like upload it to Strava. And I remember he would sit and he would like be looking at all of his data, and I'd be like, and I'd have just woken up and I'd be like, "What are you doing, bro?" And he's like, "Oh, like," and I'd be like, I remember him saying to me like, "Once you shave your legs, you'll never go back." And I remember thinking, no way. And then here I am now, just
explaining the virtues of calf sleeves versus shaven legs.
Well, and also like, let's not like lie about it. Like, your legs just look better when they're shaved, right? In my opinion, like they look more defined. Like
They do. I can't argue with that. They do.
Like now, when I see a guy with like hairy legs, I'm like, oh, like it just looks. Ugh. And also, if
you've drank the Kool-Aid that much. If people you see aren't aerodynamic, it makes you think, wow.
No, it's not aero.
Look at how many watts this person walking down the street is leaving on the table.
Like, excuse me, bro. You know you could be walking at 0.1 kilometers an hour faster if you just shaved your legs. You'd be expending
0.7% less kilojoules of energy per step. I think we've you're lost in the sauce, Craig, which is great. I'm currently trying to not get too lost in this sauce until I get closer to game day, because I know it just consume my entire existence too much.
I mean, obviously, you and I will probably talk at some point about that, just in terms of, because obviously what you're doing is so long. Not to remind you, but like, if you can make a 0.1% saving, it like accumulates,
Oh, massively.
So
calf sleeves are something I'm going to start playing around with 4 weeks out, just to get a feel for it. I'll be in anything. All of the courses should be disc wheel, gain versus loss. I mean, again, it only really kicks in over 40, but anything over 23 is kind of anything over 23 with any aero gain is
disc wheel like 100%. Like I don't even like, people are like, "Oh, is it not?" Like, I only have a disc wheel on my TT bike, and people are like, "Oh, what happens if it's windy?" I'm like, it's the front wheel that makes it.
Yeah. Although I must admit, descending down the Keltman in 2022 in those crosswinds, I was shitting myself beyond belief.
But
that was the shape of my bike on the front, not on the back.
And that is an extreme triathlon.
Ah, yes.
So,
I did feel very extreme as I was leaning to the right but moving to the left at 78 kilometers an hour, holding the brakes.
I'd say for you as well, like, a huge thing would be like tires. Like, people don't understand the difference between like a good pair of tires and a bad pair of tires. Like, it's expensive. Don't get in the grand scheme.
Do you want me to ruin your day? I'm currently running a different tire on the back to the front.
I mean, that's not like a different brand.
Yes, one's Pirelli, one's Continental.
I'm more just like I would judge that based on aesthetics more than performance.
It's not noticeable unless you're eyeing up my bike.
Yeah, but it's like people that have two different bottles on their bike.
I am also doing that. I'm living for convenience at the moment. Although I
used to have to go and cycle with you, Fergus, and be seen with you with no regard for the cycling fashion community. There's rules in cycling that we need to abide by.
But my body shape doesn't abide by them, so that's my get out of jail free card. I'm not good enough at cycling to care. That's the way I'm looking at it.
That's an excuse. I think ignorance when you're new is fine, but there's certain things like your glasses have to go inside of your helmet straps. That's just like non-negotiable. Your bottles on your bike have to match. Your tires matching, like, I wouldn't notice, but if one was like a tan wall and one was black, like,
I saw that the other day. Outside a cafe.
Fair enough. Maybe someone's had a puncture and like, whatever. Yeah, and I'm joking. Like, obviously I'm not.
I saw a debate the other day about the correct length of socks, and it was about an inch variance.
Yeah,
and I thought, have we got to the point with everything going on in the world where we're arguing over the correct length of ankle socks? Sorry.
Whoa.
Above the crew socks.
Crew socks. Yeah, crew socks are good. Like, but I would say that they need to be at least. That's 6 inches, right? They need to be at least a good few inches, like the kind of like just above the ankle socks. No, it's just like your standard crew sock, whatever that is like good for cycling. Plus or minus a couple of inches, fine. I'm not like super thingy on that, but. Yeah, ankle socks cycling, unless you're doing a triathlon. Like ankle socks, no, but like you might.
I couldn't even wear them on the turbo. I ran out of socks and I had them on the turbo the other day. I was like, I don't like this. I'm gonna wear an old pair of socks instead of this.
Do you know sometimes when you're buying something online and it's like, oh, you need to spend X amount to save on delivery.
Yeah.
And so I was buying the pair of Hoka Rockets I told you about, and it was like, oh, you need to spend like $1 to get free delivery, and delivery was going to be $20. And so I'm on their website like trying to find the cheapest thing over $1 that like I can add to my basket. And so I got a three pack of like ankle socks. I'm like, oh yeah, I will wear them. Like, if I'm just doing like a midweek run, like 30 minutes, like around like. And they arrived, and I looked at them and I was like, nah, like I'm donating them to charity, like in the packet. Like I'm just.
At least you got free delivery. At least you got free delivery. But
the stupid thing is, I saved money. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean. And in your mind, you won as well, which is key.
Well, no, but I didn't want. I would rather have just paid the same amount and not got the socks, because I'm like, I don't want to waste these socks. And now I have these socks. It's like, I've very much come to learn that there's this saying. It's like, you don't own your possessions own you. And I learned that moving to Australia. I had a container full of like furniture and everything that I'd accumulated over my life in Edinburgh, and I was very much owned by my possessions. Like, I was like, oh my god, this sofa, I cannot sell it. It cost me like $4,000, like back whenever years ago. So I've got my value from it, but I didn't want to just give it away for free. And I'm paying £100 a month to store it in this. And I was like, I'm being owned by my possessions and I hate it. And so I've tried to follow a bit more of a minimalist.
Yep.
But if I could show you my room, you wouldn't believe me. But obviously, doing triathlon is very hard to balance.
No, it is. It's very the admin of triathlon and the systems and structures that go with it. I think is where most of the value lies, because it just forces you to prioritize and get your shit together. Otherwise, you're going to miss sessions. You're going to cock up. Your bike's not going to be ready. Your bike's not going to be charged. Your bike computer's going to be dead. Whatever it's going to be, there's going to be an issue, and it's going to be your fault.
You'll only make the mistake of having to do a turbo session in a used pair of bib shorts once to then learn that you need to keep on top of doing your laundry.
Yes, yeah. Triathlon is mostly laundry, I think, is kind of the summary.
Eating and planning your eating, planning your life around training, and fitting all your other life admin in. And yeah, I've been thinking about doing an idea for a reel. It'd be something like, it's like what people think triathlon is, and it's like swim, bike, run, and then it's like what triathlon actually is, and it's like eating, sleeping, and doing laundry.
I've been, excuse me, I've been quite tired this week. Shocking, as I'm showing. But I think I had a 6-hour session midweek. And just just halfway through the run, I was just like, I'm so sick of just tanning sugar all the time.
Yeah.
Like, just the amount of just simple sugars I'm consuming just to keep myself fueling. And I feel great with my fueling. Everything's sitting nicely, but I'm like, the amount of calories per day that are just coming from things I would not normally eat.
For me, it's not even like necessarily the calories, but it's just because you need to just eat junk to get the carbs in. Essentially, it's like almost impossible to eat like a whole food diet. And
it's grossly impractical. I'm sure there's a way you could do it.
Yeah,
if you had a support car.
there'll be some rogue ultra runner that like, yeah, dude, like lives in the mountains and like lives off the land and like whatever. But for the majority of people, myself included, yeah, you just rely on gels, which becomes expensive. So then you try and find alternate solutions, which something they call them here in Australia is lollies. Where to you and I, a lolly is a very specific thing, right?
I'd say a lollipop, yes.
Exactly. Whereas for Australians, lollies are all sweets.
Ooh, no, I'm not sure about that.
Like.
No, I'm not a fan of that.
Like you go in the supermarket, it's like lollies, and then you.
Australians are better versions of Brits for the most part, but that I do not agree on. Lollies,
there's a few things that I don't like in terms, like lollies and like a few other things like that I just can't get on board with, and then I sometimes find myself using it because it's just easier, when I have to say like, oh, I'm going to go and buy some sweets, and they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, lollies. Yeah.
And then you have to get into the argument. Path of least resistance.
And I'm also doing Ironman cairns, which, as my understanding, cairn is a Scottish word. Don't know if it originated in Scotland, but cairn in Scotland is like the top of a hill or like the whatever, something on a hill. But here they say canes in their accent. But for me to say canes or cans, it's like cans in the south of France, or canes, like sugar canes. So I have to say cairns, but then they're like, oh, do you mean canes? And anyway. So
it's a very niche challenge.
But it is a hill that I am willing to die on with cairns. Is I refuse to call it canes because it just sounds disgusting in my accent.
It's very unique. It's like there was a word somebody said to me in Spanish the other day that I was like, it's so interesting, the difference in dialect. A Spanish person just cannot say that word the way that we would say it. It just does not make sense.
Yeah, I think it's like they struggle with their R's, right?
Yeah, it was a guy that came up just to have a conversation about the tri bike and say he used to grow up in the area we were in, riding his bike, and then he had a crash, so he hasn't rode his bike since he was like 17. This guy was in his 50s, very friendly, but there was one word he said, and I just went, it's just so interesting.
Yeah, they also say their S's like TH.
Yeah, canes.
They're saying it with the R. Like, it's not that they're not pronouncing the R. It's just their accent. That's just how it comes out. But for me to say it the way that they sound, I have to say it like cans, or canes. Canes.
You've chosen the wrong race, mate.
Canes.
You've chosen the wrong race.
I was like, why did I not just choose Port Macquarie? Like,
I've heard Cairns is a great event though. As long as there's no crocodiles in the water, which can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to think about that, but apparently they don't come down at that time of year or something. My assumption is like Ironman are hosting an event there. There would be someone in the organisation that's done some sort of risk assessment. Surely.
You'd like to, I'd assume so. If I was an event organizer, I would not host an event where there are crocodiles.
Well, and also it's been going for at least a couple of years, so it's like, it's not as if, oh, we're doing this new event, guys, and then like, oh, whoops, someone got eaten by a crocodile, like, oh, we better not do that again, like we made a mistake. It's like, maybe they just got away with it for the previous years, and this year is the year that there's going to be a horrific crocodile attack in the water. But if I have to
fingers crossed not.
If I have to go, then it's not the worst way to go.
There are worse ways. There's better ways to go.
There's definitely better ways to go. But
the swim in Ironman Colombo in Sri Lanka was cancelled recently because of a crocodile sighting. In the Ironman 70.3, capital of Sri Lanka, Colombo. Yeah. It was a crocodile in the water.
Well, definitely, yeah. The Ironman in Western Australia a couple of years ago got cancelled mid-swim from a great white white sighting.
I would not do well with that. That.
Can you imagine the panic of like, okay, you're in the Ironman swim, you're halfway through, and then all of a sudden you're like hearing this like commotion going on, and you're like, what? And they're like, everyone swim directly to the beach right now, like evacuate the water. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to point my feet towards the shark and just swim and hope it's not going after me. Like, I couldn't imagine the panic.
Mass swims are bad enough as it is, with panic thrown in the mix as well. That's
I know, I thought about like just that kind of like minute of like confusion of like, you're swimming and then you maybe swim into someone who they've realized the whistle's going and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? And then you keep going and then you slowly come to realize and you're like, what? And then you're like, why are we having to evacuate? And then there's only one reason why we'd have to evacuate the scene.
Yeah.
And then I'm 100 or 200 or 300 meters offshore, and then I need to just swim directly.
And you can't sprinting doesn't really happen unless you're. I don't know.
What are you going to out sprint a shark? Like,
yeah, but even when you're working as hard as you can in the water, you're not moving that quickly.
Well, and also with swimming, the harder you try, for me anyway, or most people, the harder you try, the slower you go. So it's like you need to stay long, slow, and relaxed, and like. Meanwhile, your brain's going, there's a shark coming, it's going to nip your feet or bite your entire leg.
Australia. Something's always trying to kill you. It's but ironically, people don't actually get killed that often by things that are trying to kill them in Australia. Not nearly as much as you'd expect.
Well, we were looking up randomly looking up the shark numbers the other day. I think it's like, on average, like 5 shark deaths a year in Australia.
Okay.
Which is, it's not nothing, but it's also when you think about how many people are in the sea. Like every single day.
Yeah.
Surf. There's people who like they literally live to surf. People are just dipping in the sea, and obviously some areas are worse than others and stuff like that. So like there was 4 shark attacks in the Sydney area, like a month ago. Like in a month, a couple of months ago. I think 1 was fatal, but that was like pretty like shocking that happened.
Yeah,
in fact, I think it was within a week. 4 within a week.
Probably the same shark.
Well. Yeah.
I don't know enough about sharks to comment. I'm assuming based on proximity.
I just try not. No, well, it was like actually quite spread out up the coast, but it was just in the Sydney area. That's one thing with Australia is like the scale of it is just like.
Oh, it's absurd.
Really good.
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
I drove from Melbourne to Sydney, and I remember I like followed my maps and then turned onto the motorway, and it was like stay on this road for 850 kilometers, and I was like, that's longer than the whole of the UK.
There's the one if you drive into Edinburgh from London and you go a certain route, you can come onto the M6 where there's like a slip road you come up onto, and then you sort of enter a section of road where you've got a signpost for Birmingham, and then you've got, I think it's 300 miles or something. It's like a really long stretch, and every time I see that appear, I'm like, oh my goodness. 850 kilometers is a different gravy.
Yeah, the signs here in kilometers, which make it sound even long. It's a bigger number, so it's like. I think I've definitely seen ones for over 1,000. Like I've seen road like a sign for this place is 1,000 kilometers away.
Wow.
And I think there's one somewhere on a road through the middle that's like you can see a sign that says like Sydney 2,000 kilometers or something.
And then the seed is planted. Should I ride that distance on that road?
Well, you can ride. Yeah, you could ride across Australia. Ned Brockman just did it.
Did he? Oh, sick.
Yeah, because obviously he ran it a couple of years ago.
I spoke to a guy called Rupert Guinness, who'd done that race a few times. Australian guy, very competitive ultra endurance cyclist, and he was explaining the nuances of that challenge, which sounds demanding.
Also, and they post like an actual like.
Yeah, there is an event. There is an event. Yeah. Which I don't know if it's the entire crossing, but it's certainly top. It's big. It's big.
Because I think direct across, like side to side, Perth to Sydney is like 4,000 something k.
Wow.
Maybe the high 3s.
Wow.
Depending on exactly what route you go. I think there's only one main route through the middle, and there's like the longest straight road in the world or something. It's like 100 miles, like dead straight.
In the words of Jay Cartwright, might be too hot. I'd say. Yeah. Anyway, we've digressed quite significantly, but I think that sets us up nicely for next time when we talk about your almost sub-10 Ironman. The Keltman, yes. Where I can testify how locked in and committed to that process you were and how good a performance it was. And then what came next?
Yeah,
cliffhanger.
Well, we'll obviously get into that, but it was up, and then I've had a huge down for the last, let's call it, coming up for 4 years, and so it's been a roller coaster, or not even bit of a roller coaster to say the least. And I'm still not out of the woods with it yet, but on the up, as I said. I've got
T100 in 4 days, 5 days. What did you say?
5 days, I think. Yeah, Sunday this week. It's Tuesday, so whatever that works out to be. And then all things going well there, it'll be Ironman Cairns in June, which I believe after I take a week off after the T100 because I've learned the importance of doing that. I think I've then got an 11 or 12 week block into Cairns, which will be my first Ironman since 2021. which is when I did the 10, which I did the 10:03, which I'd kind of like forgotten about, and then obviously with all of the Omnia stuff, obviously like that is my PB, and so we have to talk about, and that is what's been advertised, and I'm not going to claim sub 10 because it was not sub 10, but I have a long list of things I can tell you as to why it should be the equivalent of sub 10. But
one question before we say adios and pick that up next time: could it have been sub 10?
100%. Like, so not. I mean, it's easy to say that now, right? But like, and I'm not going to say that the bike course was really hilly, which it was, but just solely on the run, I remember looking at my Garmin afterwards, and I basically got to like 5k to go, and I was so depleted of what turned out to be sodium. I didn't know that in the moment, but like I figured out afterwards I was low on sodium. I was just so depleted that I couldn't care any less. Like, I remember having 5k to go, and I had half an hour to do it, to go sub 10. It's like, I could run 6-minute Ks in my sleep, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't care. And I would like jog like 300 meters and then like walk for 5 minutes. And like, I looked
It's crazy,
at my
isn't it?
after.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And like obviously now looking, and it's a lesson as well. It's like, you know, in that moment, I was like, no, this is my best effort. And looking back, I was like, nah, it's just like, obviously I was depleted, but I'd like lost the mental battle completely. Like the game had gone. But yeah, looking back at my Garmin file, like when you go in the app, you can kind of see your pace chart, and then when it drops to a walk, it's like quite an obvious, almost like line, you know, especially if you do like a run walk type thing. And I counted, I walked during the marathon, like stopped walk like over 40 times. And so like, you know, and I think once you let that demon in that it's okay to walk, you then go like, oh well, I just stopped to walk before, so I'm going to do it again, and it like compounds. Whereas I think and I think that's like a lesson that I've learned and that people can take, is like the mental, like those sort of mental games that you play with yourself, even if they're subconscious, is super, like that's a super important lesson that I've learned, is like, I can't let that spiral start, because what seems innocuous in like, oh well, I'll just walk through the aid station at 10k, and I do believe that you should, if you make a rule of like walking through aid stations, that's fine. I have done that since, which I think is like a fine rule to have, especially if it's like a hot race or something, you want to make sure you get your nutrition on board. But and then if that's the rule, then that's fine. But I think you do need to have these like rules or structures in your head with it, especially when you're pushing yourself to your limit, because if you don't, it's very easy. Like, fatigue makes cowards of everyone, and I'm not any different. And like, I've definitely was being a coward on that day, and yeah, couldn't run 6-minute Ks to go sub 10, even though that was my goal. That was what I've been training for. And at the time, I didn't know that was then going to be my PB for the next 5 years. I thought, I'll just do another Ironman at another point, and I'll go 9:30, you know, and like I'll go sub 9. Like, my goal was to go sub 9 at the next one, which was meant to be a year later, which obviously we'll get onto how that all panned out. Obviously didn't do the race, but yeah, I didn't think I was going to have to be living with this 3.5 minutes for this long. But
Ironman Cairns, are you setting a time goal as it stands, or are you just aiming to get it done?
I mean, yeah, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, but then I said that every time, and then I always get a week out, and I'm like, I'm going to go for this, and like I just lump all this pressure on myself, because I just feel like I perform well under pressure, like even if it's just internal pressure. I think if I can have a good training block, I can get close to going sub 10 and get this monkey off my back.
Yeah.
And then we can start looking at sub 9 again once I get like a proper prep, because yeah, this one, I'm still dealing with some health issues, and so therefore I can't train as much as I want. Like, even this T100 block, I just did a video yesterday. I've averaged over 11 weeks. I've only averaged 8.6 hours per week, which for your normal age grouper is like okay, but for me, who is essentially able to train as much as I want, it's not as much as I would want to do. And how that panned out was 7 weeks in the mostly 12 to 14 hour range, and 4 weeks of 0, and that's why my average has come out in the 8s. So I'm following a very polarized training method, but the wrong kind of polarized, you know. And it's not through choice, it's through just dealing with health things, and also dealing with what I feel is like a weakened immune system now, so I had 3 weeks off from a cold, which before I used to get a cold and I would have 3 days off, or like barely, and then I just picked up something, it felt like over the weekend, so I just had to shut it down again. So my battle now is I'm not limited by what I can do physically or mentally, I'm limited by something else, which is a whole other challenge in its own right, and it's an interesting one because it's something that I truly don't have control over. You know, it's and it's not something that like, oh, over time my mindset gets better and these hard sessions get easier, and over time my fitness gets better, and so what once was hard is now easy. It's like I now just have this like very unpredictable, what seems unpredictable anyway, thing in my body that at any time can just say, oh, you're not training today, or like you can try, but you're going to make yourself 10 times worse, and that's not great for morale, let's say, and for ego, and for progress, and for all of the above. It's but it's a different type of challenge, and I have kind of embraced it, let's say, and I'm definitely in a better position now than I was a year ago, and definitely like 2 years ago. So it's positive. It's just not the progress that I would like to make, because at the same time I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So for me to not get all green sessions on Training Peaks annoys me. For me to have to post about my training on social media as a coach, which is something I kind of have to do, to then constantly be going on and saying, oh, yeah, didn't do all my sessions this week.
I've had the weekend for me has been like that. It just it completely fell apart, which we'll talk about separately. But it's fucking don't slice your finger open 6 hours before you're meant to start a full distance Ironman and training.
I think there's a lesson in there as well, in that like something along like, no matter how prepared you can be, there's always something.
That's the way I framed it, and I think ironically, Saturday after I tried and couldn't make it work because my finger was still bleeding, and the pool that we were getting into by hopping a fence, shall we say, because the facilities weren't yet open because of Spanish opening hours, was actually 11 degrees. So that wasn't something I could swim in for 3.8k in a pair of trunks. So.
Because I find that sometimes with, and you're probably even more distant than me on this, but I think like I feel I'm quite unrelatable to the average athlete, and I don't say that in any type of like big-headed way. I just mean like they probably look and like, you know, I'm just further ahead, and so maybe some of the challenges that you face in terms of like training, etc., aren't relatable to people, and like same with me. Obviously, like the health stuff aside, but like the you know, I'm like, oh, like. I only did a 5-hour ride today when I was meant to do 6. I don't think like that it's just completely unrelatable to, you know, average Joe who's just getting into triathlon. But what I think is relatable is like, oh, Fergus is just cut his finger open, or like, oh, Craig like had like a disaster where his house flooded and like he was, you know, like thing like that happens to everyone, and you know, the best of the best people, you can be as you know, prepared as you like. There's always going to be a spanner in the works, whether it's illness, you know, just stuff going on in your personal life, physical injuries, or like, I wouldn't even call that an injury, but silly, like, you know, or like cutting your finger open, or, you know, whatever it is, it happens to the best of us. And I think like it's important for people to know that, because I think then when that happens to your normal athlete and they go, oh, like I just can't deal with all of this, it's all too much, and you're like, no, like everyone deals with these things.
The thing that followed is I did that, and then tried to swim on the Saturday morning, realised I couldn't. It was just gone 5. I was fucking freezing, and I thought I was exhausted. My finger was bleeding again, and I thought, what the hell? You've spent all week planning and preparing for this, and here you are, unable to swim, not able to grip a bike. And then we tried to make a backup plan. We actually drove to the location to get on the bike. I got on the bike and I couldn't squeeze the brakes because I couldn't hold on to the bike. And then I got back in the car and thought, fuck it, I'll just go back and run. Got back, which was 45-minute drive, and then I just, honestly, my head just went. I just crashed completely, and Sunday was a complete write-off, because I think all of the pressure of trying to, again, not relatable particularly, but if you distill it down, I was trying to plan for the biggest weekend of training of my whole life, whilst planning to document it without a support car, with having Tom, camera guy, on a bike in a new location. And then all of a sudden, everything went tits up in the space of like 4 hours. And I went, this is too much for me. I've just folded. Yeah. I've got, so it was just interesting.
When you're saying that, I've got so many stories like that where, especially, I seem to have some sort of like thing with like races where I can't get through a race without something going wrong, either in the very immediate prep for it or during the race. So even going all the way back to that Weymouth 70.3, I got a puncture during that race I managed to get to the end, but it completely derailed my ride. I had to stop like 3 times to try and fix it. Fast forward to Ironman Portugal, my power meter ran out of battery 40k in, and not only did it stop working, it got stuck telling me I was pushing 44 watts, which is my lucky number. But looking at 44 watts, while you're trying to do an Ironman is not so nice. Outlaw, one of the outlaws down south, I was trying to pump up my tire in transition before race start, and I managed to unscrew my valve core, and it fell into my disc wheel, and so I was unable to pump. I was unable to get it back out. Unable to pump my tire up. Running around the transition area, being like, frantically, does anybody have a spare valve? And like, obviously, nobody has a spare valve. And yeah, so like these, but I think like again, it's just experience, right? And it's like every time something like that happens to me, even though I was being a bit frantic in the Outlaw, and then that same race, Outlaw, jumped on my bike, and my Garmin just was like black, like it just like it just wouldn't turn on. Like it was already, it should have been on, but it was just black, and I was cycling along trying to push all the buttons. Nothing happened. Fast forward, got home, plugged it in, and it immediately turned on and said it had 99% battery. And I was like, that's
exactly what happened to me in the double brutal on the run. I started running, I went up Snowdon, came down, it was just black, and I went, well, it was fully charged. What the hell's going on?
That's so funny. Actually, on that ride, I remember, like, because typically I'm a bit of a slower swimmer compared to like the people that I'm racing, let's say, and so I'm typically overtaking a few people on the bike. And I remember everyone that I overtook after maybe like half an hour, I was asking them like, "Excuse me, what time of day is it?" And they would be like, "What?" Like, what a random question. And because in my head I knew what time we'd started at, and there was no markers on the course as to where we were, and I was like, we've obviously all started at different times. So if I asked them like how far into their ride they are, I should have just asked them distance. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but because my nutrition plan was based on time, in the moment I wasn't thinking straight. And so I remember, and so because I had no concept of where I was in the race, like, or throughout the course. So I'm like, am I 30k in? Am I 60k in? Like, I had nothing. And so I'm asking people, hey, what time of day is it? And I'd get an answer out of some of them, and then I'd be like, okay, we started at 6. My swim probably took me like 30 minutes. So transition was 5 minus the carry the 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, I think I need to have a gel now. And actually, it was one of my best like bike splits at the time, which is interesting, because I think sometimes you can get a bit too caught up in the numbers. And I did feel strong, and so if I had numbers, I'd have probably been like, oh, I'm pushing 10 watts more than my target. Like I should maybe back off, and maybe it allowed me to unlock some more potential. But yeah, I think the point is that these things happen, whether it's in training or racing, and the more that you deal with them, the more you learn to overcome them. And I think the thing that I've learned is like any problem you can kind of fix it, like especially like in a race, it's like there's not many things.
And the more exposure you have to these things, the better you are equipped to prepare for them next time.
Like a girl that I coach, she's quite new to triathlon. At the moment, she had a race, or like a cycle event, let's call it, on Sunday, and she messaged to say, oh, she got a puncture like 2.8k, and she didn't know how to fix a puncture, and so she finally got someone to help her to fix it. But by that point, doing an event in Scotland, she was freezing, and so she ended up like only doing 30k of the 100k and finishing, which is obviously not great, because luckily it wasn't like an A race for her. It was just like a kind of thing that she was ticking off. But I think from now doing that, she's going to learn the lesson of, okay, I need to know how to fix a puncture. I need to like check my tires before the race. I need to, there's just this like thing through experience, and like me telling you, oh, make sure you do this, make sure you do this, nothing new on race day, make sure you check your tires, make sure you're carrying a spare tube. Like, I can tell you all of these lessons that I've learned, and you go, yeah, and then it happens to you, and you're like, oh, okay, I see. And I'm the same. Yeah. Like I've I see a thing, oh, don't do this, and I'm like, yeah, that's for you though. Like, I'm obviously going to do that, and then it goes wrong, and you're like, it's like, oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have tried a whole new gel on race day, because I'm now sitting in the Portaloo and losing time to the field.
Yes, it's some lessons must be learnt by oneself, I'd say, and there's a lot of them in triathlon.
I find especially the nutrition lessons. There's a lot of those that have to be learned. Like, for example, I know if I'm going out for a long ride or run, I will always carry in a Ziploc bag a little bit of toilet roll.
Yes, because
you only don't have toilet roll when you need it once.
Correct. Nearly happened to me on Saturday morning. The toilet that I was relying upon as a service station was out of order, which put a real spanner in the works.
There is no worse feeling than in your head being like, okay, I need to go to the toilet, but I know there's one there. And this applies to training and not, but like mostly when it's those sort of situations, it's either due to coffee or gels or some combination of the two, and running, and just shaking everything up to the point where it's coming out, and you get there, and for one reason or another, it's not where you thought it was, or it's someone's in there, or
in a race setting, it's horrendous as well because you're trying to rush everything, and it's just it's not a nice place to be. So again, avoid these mistakes one and all. And I think a Ziploc bag with toilet paper is a valuable lesson for triathlon, ultra running,
and just
mountains,
life in general. I think there's no
life in general.
Just that, hey,
always be packing. Always
it's like
be packing.
my mum always used to say, you know, if you're going out, she's like, take your jacket with you because you can always take it off, but you can't put it on if you don't have it. It's like, hey,
she's not wrong. She is
not wrong. That is something I've come to
very similar logic to you. You can live in a car, but you can't drive a house.
Exactly, and that's why I ended up living in a van for 9 weeks, traveling around Europe in 2022, which is again,
mobile training camp. A story for another time.
Another teaser for, I guess, episode 2. There's a lot of stuff we've not covered, but I think there's a lot of stuff we have covered as well. A lot of tangents that we went on, but.
Many tangents. There will be more next time, but no, thank you for that, Craig. Much to touch base on next time. I've got 20 minutes to midnight, which is long past my bedtime, so I'm going to go and get sleep and get back to the turbo trainer in the UK, unfortunately. But the weather is starting to turn, which is good at least. So we will talk on your 10:03, the Keltman, everything that's happened since next time, and then break down how you get on at T100. All the best. We wish you all the best, and then we will see what the prep for Cairns are going to look like.
Yeah, sounds good. See you then.
Nice one.